Welcome to Walking the Torah Portions. I'm Tyler Merwin, and this is Torah Portion, Terumah. This week's Torah portion is Exodus 25:1 to 27:19. The Haftarah this week is 1 Kings 5:12 through 6:13. So Terumah, it means offering in Hebrew. And our opening line is, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moses, "Speak to the people of Israel, so they take for me a contribution, or a Terumah, from every man whose heart moves him. You shall receive the contribution, or Terumah, for me." Exodus 25:1 through 2. Last week's Torah portion left us with Moses going up to the Mount Sinai to get the revelation of Torah from God, while the rest of Israel awaits at the bottom of the mountain. God begins by having Moses ask the people for a Terumah. So Terumah is an offering, but in fact, God is asking for an offering from every man whose heart moves or motivates him. So the building material for the tabernacle, or the Mishkan, will actually be built from materials that are voluntarily offered by the hands of his people, Israel. None of these items was demanded or coerced. I think the pattern here is that the Holy One, through his Spirit, will only dwell inside of us, a tabernacle made of flesh, if we offer ourselves freely and unconditionally to him. And this is the contribution that you shall receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue and purple and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, goat skins, acacia wood, oil for the lamps, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and stones for setting, for the ephod and for the breastpiece. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell in their midst, exactly as I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle and of all its furniture, so you shall make it. Exodus 25:3 through 9. The sages note that the tabernacle, its vessels, and the priestly garments were made from 13 types of raw materials. Now the number 13 has a lot of superstition surrounding it, mostly in the negative sense in our day and age. But the number 13 in Hebrew instead has a concealed beauty and significance. Remember, as we've said before, that all Hebrew letters have a number equivalent. They're both ABC and 1, 2, 3. So each Hebrew letter has its own meaning or character in and of itself. When we combine the letters to form words, we can get different pictures or characterizations from the combination, as well as a combined number for the word. These insights should not guide us or direct us by themselves, but they can illuminate aspects of what we're studying. Proper application of this should strengthen our understanding of our text and not send us running off in a weird direction. So the raw materials can be related to the Hebrew word for love, achavah, which has a numerical value of 13. Yeshua is love, or achavah. And we can also see that these materials were freely given by the people through their love for God. God was asking for these materials so he could dwell among his people because of his love for them. Another Hebrew word that has a numerical value of 13 is echad. Echad can be translated as one, united, or together, and is how God describes himself as one. Echad can be used to denote a single or a one thing, but I'm going to emphasize the unity or community aspect of it for our teaching. Yeshua states that he and the Father are one, or echad. Man and wife are to be one, or echad. In last week's Torah portion, all the people answered in echad, all that Yahweh has spoken we will do. So the 13 raw materials were to be collected by everyone's heart who drew them, that were in echad with one another. The many materials would be constructed into one, or echad, Mishkan. By the means of the Mishkan, God would dwell with them, or be in echad with them. You may have noticed that I end each Torah portion with the phrase, "Let's lift up the name of the Holy One, with love in echad." With love, or achavah, numerical value of 13, and in echad, numerical value also of 13. If we combine both love and echad together, it adds up to the number 26. And the number 26 is the value of Yod-He Vav-He, the sacred name of the Holy One. So if we're acting truly with love, achavah, of Yeshua, and we're in echad with God, with our family, our community, and the body of Messiah as a whole, we are uplifting or upholding the name, which would be the image of the Holy One in this earth. I always view that love, echad, and Yod-He Vav-He as kind of the doorpost and the lintel when we're talking about that Passover picture. So the two doorposts being 13 and 13, love and echad, would actually balance and have the lintel of Yod-He Vav-He sitting above it. Yeshua said that he stands at the door and knocks. And so I can see that if we are at the door and we can abide in love and echad under the pretext and the commandments of Yod-He Vav-He, then we will meet Yeshua. Verse 9 says, "Exactly as I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle and of all its furniture, so you shall make it." Moses is seeing the true tabernacle in the heavenly realm, whereas all we would see, or they would see back in the camp, is actually the physical representation. So his job will be to make an earthly copy of Adonai's heavenly abode here on earth. Since we don't have the same access that Moses had to the heavens, we are to pattern our lives from his holy word. The sages also see the Mishkan, or the tabernacle, as the completion of the revelation at Sinai. As much of an awesome experience as that mountain was, it has to translate into our daily lives, which is not always as exciting, but is of the utmost importance. The Mishkan can physically symbolize our daily walk with the Father and the daily offerings, the prayers, and songs that we should offer up to him. Verse 10 states, "They shall make an ark of acacia wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, and 1 cubit and a half its breadth, and 1 cubit and a half its height." Verse 10 through 22 describe the construction of the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat. The Ark would hold the 2 tablets with the 10 Commandments. The Ark, like the other pieces that are located inside the Mishkan, is made out of or overlaid with pure gold. As we've discussed before, holiness can be dangerous. The ark with the mercy seat are the most holy items that are in the most holy place, the Holy of Holies. Because of this, the staves or the poles that were used to carry it were to actually be kept into the rings permanently. The rest of the articles, they would have rings and carrying poles, but they would only be used when they were actually carrying the implements. By having them stay in place, this was a protection so that no priest or Levite could come into direct contact with the ark while they were moving camps. There I will meet with you, from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubim that are on the ark of the testimony. I will speak with you about all that I will give you in commandment for the people of Israel. Exodus 25:22. The understanding is God's voice would actually come from heaven, come down to the top of the cover of the mercy seat, and they would emanate from there out to Moses from between the cherubim. This dialogue, this motion that's coming from the heavens down, is happening directly in connection with the tablets of the testimony or the covenant that are sitting in the ark itself. So it's almost like God is showing that he is going to speak, but he's not going to speak outside of his covenant. He's not going to tell Moses something different than he's already given them. You shall make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, a cubit its breadth, and a cubit and a half its height. Exodus 25:23. Next, God gives Moses the plans for the table of showbread. This is where the 12 loaves of showbread, the bread of the presence, or the bread of faces, what is sometimes called, were to be kept or changed out each Shabbat. You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. A lampstand shall be made of hammered work, its base, its stem, its cups, its calyxes, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. Exodus 25:31. The menorah construction is described next. The 7-branched menorah that is echad, as it is made from one single piece of gold that was supposed to be beaten out. This is the basic symbol of the 7s we find throughout Scripture. The book of Revelation is full of 7s, and John describes seeing Yeshua in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands. Before I had an understanding of Torah, I always pictured, like I'm sure some of you did, that these were 7 separated individual lamps or even candlesticks, and not as the echad menorah that John saw in his vision. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen and blue and purple and scarlet yarns, and you shall make them with cherubim skillfully worked into them. Exodus 26:1. So blue, purple, and scarlet are the colors of the tabernacle. Blue can be seen to represent the heavens, where the Holy One dwells. Scarlet can be seen as the earth, like the red clay, where we dwell. And purple is a color made by blending these 2 colors together, which can picture the tabernacle, where God and man can dwell in echad. Verses 1 through 14 describe the curtains and the coverings and describe repeatedly that they are in echad, individual in nature, but connected for a common purpose. You shall make upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. Exodus 26:15. Verses 15 through 30 describe the gold-covered wooden plank structure of the tabernacle. Everything was overlaid in gold except the silver bases that connected the wall planks at the bottom. And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen, and it shall be made with cherubim skillfully worked into it. Exodus 26:31. This veil will separate the holy place from the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies. You shall put the mercy seat on the ark of testimony in the most holy place, and you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle, opposite the table. And you shall put the table on the north side. Exodus 26:34 and 35. Here we're given the arrangement of the items in the tabernacle, minus the altar of incense, which will come into play in next week's Torah portion. The tabernacle is oriented with east as the primary direction, which was common for the ancient Near East. Just like our modern maps are oriented north, primarily through the use of compasses, they use the rising sun as a primary point of reference, which would be east. You shall make a screen for the entrance of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. And you shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and you shall cast 5 bases of bronze for them. Exodus 26, 36 through 37. The 5 pillars of the entrance remind me of the 5 fingers of our hand. It's kind of like entering the Mishkan is entering or walking between the fingers of God to come into the palm of his hand, into the center of where he meets man. You shall make the altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. You shall make horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. Exodus 27, 1 and 2. The brazen altar is described and is made of bronze or overlaid with bronze. Once we come outside the Mishkan itself, we transition from a gold and silver to bronze. Bronze, or maybe described as copper, would be a more practical material for the work of the altar. With all that heat and the blood, just that part of the daily service, it would be much better suited for. But this also describes the lessening level of holiness as compared to inside the Mishkan. You shall make the court of the tabernacle. On the south side of the court shall have hangings of fine twined linen, 100 cubits long for one side. Exodus 27, 9. Our portion ends with the instructions for the courtyard. Our portion covers all the items of the tabernacle except for the golden incense altar that is in the holy place, and the bronze laver or basin that is in the courtyard where the priests will wash before performing their duties. The tabernacle is an earthly copy of the heavenly original. The heavenly original is also the Garden of Eden. Our late beloved brother and teacher, Brad Scott, taught us this pattern. That God planted a garden in Eden in the east. So we have Eden, a land or a region, which is equivalent to the tabernacle or the courtyard. He planted a garden in Eden. That garden would be equivalent to the holy place or the Mishkan. Man was placed in the garden to guard and to keep it. The priest must guard and upkeep the menorah fires, the showbread, and the incense, as well as actually stand guard and keep it. Then there was the midst of the garden that contained the tree of life. This equates to the Holy of Holies and the Ark of the Covenant that contains the 2 tablets of his testimony or his covenant with us. As we go about our daily lives, let us look to the pattern of our Creator and align our lives, our deeds, and our attitudes with His. I pray this teaching has been edifying. Let's lift up the name of the Holy One with love in Echad. Shalom.